Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. Happy Monday. We are back. I am Adam Weinrib, joined, as I am every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday now as we head into the offseason by FanSided's MLB insider, Robert Murray. And the Toronto Blue Jays reset the pitching market for us ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. Very thankful they were able to do that. Got the chatter rolling about a week ahead of the winter meetings now. Those begin officially, I believe, Sunday night. We're going to have plenty of wall-to-wall coverage Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Robert will be boots on the ground in Orlando. But for now, we are here to talk about what might come as a ripple effect of the Cease deal, the Ryan Helsley move, who comes next, what do we believe? Here to talk me through all of it and answer your questions is Robert Murray. Robert, happy week.
Hey, it's a new week. Happy late Thanksgiving. The Eagles once again disappointed me. That was not very good, but thankfully the baseball offseason is not disappointing me. We got a lot of movement. We got Dylan Cease going to the Jays. We got Ryan Helsley going to the Orioles. And it seems like things are picking up ahead of the winter meetings here and after the holidays. So this could be a very fun week. The winter meetings are shaping up to be very active. So that means good content here from the Baseball Insiders, but I'm here to break it all down with you, Adam. How's it going? Happy Monday. Everyone in the comments, good to be here with you.
Good to be here with you. Good to be here with everyone in the comments, even though we're 2 seconds into the show and Justin is already making, some linguistic changes saying Toronto didn't break the starting pitching market. They established it. Okay, tip of the cap. Thanks for the pedantic note. We're here to answer any of your questions, whether they are kind or annoying. That is the service that we play for you. Wednesday night was a fun time for the Cease news to break. And I've said this before. I'll say it again. 7 years, $210 million more than I would have paid for Dylan Cease. But you got to give to get. And anyone making fun of the Blue Jays for an overpay is following the wrong angle here, because in reality, this shows that, okay, if they're willing to do this, they're pretty much willing to do anything. There's no such thing as an overpay if you don't allow yourself to be capped by your previous moves. This was the price that they felt they had to pay to get a pitcher who they really loved, whose strikeout stuff is among the game's very best, and who they don't believe in the fickle year-over-year ERA thing. They like the swing and miss. They like behind the scenes. They like getting him into their system and onto the rest of their roster, and it's a great fit. Pushes Jose Barrios down into the number 5 starter spot. Way to make up for the likely departures of Chris Bassett and Max Scherzer. But now here's the question. How does this move reset the starting pitcher market? And it feels to me like this indicates Toronto is willing to go very far, because why would you stop after just bringing in Cease when you still have work to do in the lineup and other targets you're connected to and in the bullpen? How much further do you think they do go after committing this money to Dylan Cease?
Yeah, so as far as the Jays go here, they wanted a starting pitcher. Like, that was something that I had heard, a lot of people had heard, and they were going to be going big game fishing there. And the player that I thought was the best fit was going to be Framber Valdez. And ultimately, they viewed Dylan Cease as the guy that they wanted. And the 7 years for $210 million, caught people off guard. That being said, people around the league were not surprised by that deal overall. Cease is durable. He's dependable. He's got really good stuff. And those are things that teams covet. And teams believe that there's more upside with his arm. They think that there's more to come with him. And they're betting on the future upside being higher than what he's shown. And he's still showing some really good things. And that's why the Padres were aggressive in trying to trade for him and ultimately getting him. There were other teams that tried trading for him when he was with the White Sox. I'm not saying that the Padres were aggressive now in trying to get him. I'm saying when they traded for him a couple of years ago. But that overall, this is just the beginning of what's going to be a very busy offseason for the Toronto Blue Jays. And they're going to look at bullpen. I would say that's definitely a priority for them at this point. But also, what does this mean for a guy like Bo Bichette, who is absolutely, I think, still in play with the Jays? And what is his overall market going to look like here? You can look at, there's a bunch of different teams, big name, big market teams that make sense for him. And I will maintain this. I think Bichette's going to do a lot better than people think in free agency. The comp that we've seen publicly has been Willy Adames. I think it could end up being much closer to Xander Bogaerts, where he ended up getting $280 million. We'll see how that ages, but that is something that I've heard from people around the league. So again, we'll see how it ages, but it's something I'm watching.
The contract that made Chaim Bloom take a deep breath and walk away from a bunch of people at the airport. The Xander Bogaerts deal, a good comp for Bo Bichette and a great player who, again, the Blue Jays have that added flexibility. The comments noting there's deferred money in C2. I think it's $26 million AAV. Regardless, it's a hefty sum, and it's something that they're willing to swallow because they love the player. And when you have that much money, when you have that much World Series momentum, who really cares about the difference of a couple $1 million as long as the team doesn't care, as long as they don't let it stop them? And I don't think they're going to let it stop them at all. Now, $210 million, though, for the first major starting pitcher deal will have trickle-down effects. It makes me think about Tatsuya Imai, someone, back in the day, we were talking about Yoshinobu Yamamoto, thinking, does he get 200? Does he get 220, 250? He gets 350. The market shifts. So Imai, we'd already heard, okay, high 100s, maybe into the 200s. Does Ceased for 210 change that? If Framber Valdez, even down to the Michael Kings and the slightly shorter term commitments we see mentioned in the comments. What are you hearing about Imai, the rest of the top tier starting pitching market, and maybe who's circling now that the Blue Jays have filled their need? You've still got the Orioles, you've still got the Mets, you've still got plenty of teams interested in flirting with those types of pitchers.
Yeah, the starting pitching market, definitely a lot of names here. Like you mentioned Imai, we have Ranger Suarez out there, Framber Valdez. Like we have a bunch of different names, and there's also a ton of teams who are looking for starting pitching. Like you can look at it, Padres, Giants, the Mets. I mean, shoot, almost every contending team is looking for starting pitching, which means the prices for those guys are just going to be even further driven up. And we saw Jeff Passan today say that Imai, I think he said that Imai's market is moving, which, I mean, that's not a surprise necessarily, considering his posting date is getting clear. But all those players are going to end up garnering major contracts. And the other part of this that I think is really interesting here is look at Shane Bieber with the Toronto Blue Jays, where he ended up accepting that option for $16 million with a $4 million buyout. So essentially it was 1 for 12 because he was, no matter what, he was guaranteed $4 million. Like people criticize that all you want. Like he passed up a potential huge payday to stay with Toronto because he wanted to be there. Like instead of ripping the guy, I think we should give him credit in terms of it's very rare we see a player do that where he knows he passes up more money. Maybe there's more to the story. I don't know. But clearly he was comfortable in Toronto. Clearly he loved being a Toronto. He wouldn't have accepted that option. But I mean, shoot, you look at it, like the Michael King option is a really good one. And people were I feel like there were some people, especially in the Discord, who were kind of surprised that he ended up turning down the option or the qualifying offer.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's going to end up getting a pretty decent sized contract. He's got a lot of interest. He's a player who's definitely, if the team's not going to be spending on Suarez or Valdez or anybody like that, King is a really good option there. So a lot of names here, and I would expect this to be probably one of the main topics of conversation come the winter meetings.
Yeah, and that is, again, just 1 week away. If you think this is fun, you think we're having fun now with the pre-Thanksgiving stuff and the weekend moves, just wait till the winter meetings and the rumors are endless.
Exactly. And the other guy that I forgot to mention here too is Zach Gallen. And Gallen, before last year, he was someone who was shaping up to just have a monster contract. And he's established himself as one of the best pitchers in the National League. He's still got stuff, for sure. And maybe he's not necessarily everybody's flavor, but his ability to compete and his previous history, I still think he's going to end up doing pretty well. I don't know if $100 million is attainable. He's still going to end up getting a pretty strong contract. And the buzz around Cody Ponce, especially with what Ken Rosenthal wrote today, he's a player I've heard a good amount of buzz on, but what Ken said, I mean, if he's getting 30 to 40 million, that is a lot of dough. And good for him for going overseas and now coming back to the majors and getting potentially a deal well worth more than Merrill Kelly.
Yeah, how about that? Every year it's a name like Cody Ponce, but again, 1 year, 10 mil. I was saying multi-year, you're thinking about the Kyle Hart contract. I'm not thinking about 30 to 40 million, but apparently that's what the market is showing. One team and the comments have gotten, here first, and I'll bring it back, that maybe we thought was going to be involved in the higher end starting pitching market and isn't quite so much, are the San Francisco Giants. So that, that was an Imai destination we talked about. Now it seems they're not going to go, 9 figures for a pitcher of any kind. It seems is the latest. So is that similar to what you're hearing? And where do they go from there if they're not going that high in the pitching market?
Yeah, I don't anticipate them going into that level of the market. Maybe an opportunity presents itself where they can't pass it up, but I'd be pretty surprised by a big splash in the pitching market. I think it's going to be the mid-tier options, and we'll see from there. They also, I want to make sure I pull this up. They signed a left-handed reliever. I can't remember his name. I dropped it the other day. Like I was on
Sam Hentges.
There we go. Yeah. So here's the backstory on that one. So I'm on a walk. I got my cousins Connor and Maya with me. I have Cooper with me. It's a Thanksgiving family day walk. Just start, and all of a sudden I find out about this, get it triple confirmed, and I run with it. And it was like my cousin Connor told me, like, dude, your job is like the coolest thing in the entire world. Like, it was one of those moments where it's like, oh yeah, what we do here is pretty darn cool. Like, I mean, I've never not thought that, but yeah, that was really cool. But anyways, I think that was a sneaky, really good signing by the Giants. It was a very cheap 1-year major league contract. But immediately after he was non-tendered, the Giants were like after him immediately. And they ended up non-tendering Joey Lucchesi, which kind of caught people off guard. But that signing right there is exactly why they ended up doing it, because they wanted to sign him and they ultimately got him.
Our job is pretty cool. Just so everybody knows, there appears to be someone in the Baseball Insiders comment section commenting as the Baseball Insiders, which is making me go, interesting. I didn't send that comment. But we appreciate all of your comments.
Yeah. Oh boy, I thought that was MLB deadline news. I'm like, yeah, it was legitimately my cousins. It was not anything too crazy.
Keep it. Let's keep that within the confines of this stream. Let the rumors get out. We let that stay. But we appreciate everybody again who's joining us. This is a pretty cool journey and a pretty cool time of the year to be doing this, even if we don't get to triple confirm news on every show. And now the bullpen, still that market has moved quicker than the starting pitchers. We have seen Rafael Iglesias go. There's a reason the comments are talking about Pete Fairbanks and the Jays, and Ryan Helsley goes to the O's over the weekend. 2 years, $28 million. Mets fans will say overpay, but I think based on his body of work, that makes a lot of sense. And Baltimore clearly undeterred by that finish to the year with the Mets. There were rumors about him being converted to a starting pitcher. I would say that don't make a lot of sense now. Let's maybe just stick him in the bullpen where he does really well. But what moves next in the reliever department? Are we seeing a Fairbanks move? Are we seeing a Devin Williams move? What are you hearing?
I like Devin Williams is a really interesting name that I would keep an eye on. He's a player, obviously his what he did in Milwaukee was incredible. Like, he established himself, especially with the airbender, as one of the best, most dominant relievers in ball. And this past year in New York did not go necessarily as planned, but he has a lot of interest. And he is a player who I could see signing sooner rather than later. I think the Mets make a lot of sense, especially with the David Stearns connection. I don't think a Yankees connection makes the most sense to me, especially with David Bednar in town. But there's plenty of interest in a guy like Devin Williams. And again, like, he's definitely named the watch here going forward. Pete Fairbanks, a lot of interest there. He is someone who I think it caught people off guard that, like, the Jays, or not the Jays, but the Rays ended up not, picking up his option? Yeah, they declined his club option. Caught people off guard. It was for $11 million. I would expect him to do better than that. Like, usually when a player ends up having his option declined, he signs for less than that. But we got to remember, like, the team that ended up declining that option, it's the Rays. They're a small market franchise, and they're not in a position here where they can pay a reliever $11 million. So I'd expect the team, whoever it is, it's going to end up being more. I was waiting on a text. That was not what I was waiting for. But he's going to end up doing pretty darn well, and I would expect his contract to look pretty similar to what Ryan Helsley got with the Orioles.
Yeah, I would agree. The comment saying most Mets fans believe he's going to bounce back, as well as Devin Williams. Williams already bounced back. He was the Yankees' second best bullpen arm by the end of the year. As soon as he wasn't in the closer role and under pressure anymore, there's no reason Devin Williams isn't going to look good next season, unless he's uncomfortable wherever he goes. But he gets to choose his path, so that's up to him. And I would imagine whatever team does sign him, going to get some pretty solid value there. Now, Mets fans want to talk about how involved they're going to be at the winter meetings. We'll definitely give Mets fans a couple of nuggets as we head into the back part of the podcast. But over the weekend, over Thanksgiving, I think the more pertinent Mets news was sort of this weird column that came out about a chilly relationship between Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor. Even some quotes from Soto at the end of the year where he called Starling Marte the real captain. Now, Lindor is not the official captain, but definitely informal, and I would say not necessarily a shot, but maybe ill-advised, not something you should say. Saw Met fans boiling that down to be like, oh, so this is a big drama because Francisco Lindor likes clothes? No, I don't think that's an accurate interpretation of the column. Either way, these are the kind of things that come out when a team loses, when a team collapses. Do you hear anything like this, or is this just classic offseason fodder between a year where things did not go right for the Mets and one where they're going to have to make big improvements to the pitching staff to make sure they don't collapse again and we don't have to hear anything about this chilly relationship?
Yeah, so as far as this goes, it's hard. I'm not there on a daily basis to really like say like, yeah, this is something I've heard. Like that being said, have I heard like similar whispers? Like, yeah. But the guy that reported it, Mike Puma of the Post, he's there on a daily basis and he's got relationships all around that team. If he wrote it, like he definitely heard it, he was confident in it and he ran with it. And like I give him credit for writing it because that takes balls. It takes stones to write a story like that. But yeah, I think that's about the basis of what I can say there. But what I can confidently say is that the Mets should have a very active offseason and they should have a very active winter meetings. And it should be like either re-signing Edwin Diaz and or like re-signing Pete Alonso. Maybe you end up going out and getting a starting pitcher. Maybe you get Devin Williams. Like to me, they have to spend big. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be like the Schwarbers or the Tuckers by any means. But when you have Steve Cohen as your owner and you're coming off of a season as embarrassing as last season was, and you also signed Juan Soto to one of the richest, well, actually the richest deal in baseball history, you have to go out and try to get back to the World Series. Otherwise, people are going to be shouting for your jobs in New York. That's just that comes with the territory there. So to me, they have to spend. I could see them being creative in doing so, especially after they ended up doing the Brandon Nimmo deal where they ended up trading a very popular player and sending him to Texas for Marcus Semien. So maybe that means having one of those big players leave and bringing someone else in. Who exactly that could be or what that could look like remains to be seen. Obviously, with Edwin Diaz a free agent, you have plenty of different options, whether it's a Robert Suarez or Fairbanks. There's so many different options that they could pursue for the bullpen. But Diaz is the number one option there. Not re-signing him would be tough, but it would not be the end of the world considering the current state of free agency.
Appreciate the compliment on the beard growth. Apologies for then rage baiting you immediately after, but the Mets are set up extremely well for the present and the future. Year one of the present, though, it didn't work. We have to admit that it didn't work. Full year of Noah McLean, Jonah Tong could absolutely change things, but I do think you have to go a little higher upside, make some major deals so that you're not relying too much on these somewhat untested arms. And we appreciate the comments. Now, a little rage bait in the comments for me. We've got someone who's asking repeatedly about John Heyman, saying there's a big gap in years between the Yankees and Cody Bellinger. So we equal opportunity rage bait on this show. We'll rage bait me here as well. Look, I don't think – I haven't heard the quote. I don't know if he said not particularly close or you're saying that, but it doesn't surprise me that there would be a gap in negotiations at this point in the year. Bellinger also not quite – Yankee fans, someone could tell me otherwise – it's not in the Juan Soto tier of like, gotta have him for 8 years or else Hal Steinbrenner is a fool. It's a great player and a great fit last year. Kind of a confusing contract situation where, the numbers are going to be big. So curious what you're hearing here. I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's a big gap in negotiations right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if that gap gets filled or if somebody else steps in because the Yankees have some outfield depth to work with.
Yeah, first of all on this, I saw some really small Yankees blog tweet the other day that like Bellinger and the Yankees were close. I checked on it and the immediate response was total BS. They are not close to a deal. That being said, do I think it's possible that he's back in New York? Like for sure. Like he had a great season in New York. He thrived there. He clearly enjoyed being there as well. And winning is a priority for the Yankees. And even after Trent Grisham ended up taking the qualifying offer, they immediately said that like re-signing Bellinger was still an option for them. So I'm not ruling out Bellinger by any means, but there's also going to be plenty of competition here when it comes to Bellinger. He's one of the top bats in the market. And he's also, and he made a strong point to point this out at the GM meetings, that he's played in Chicago, he's played in LA, and he's played in New York, the three biggest markets in baseball. And if he can win there, he can win anywhere. Or if he plays well there, he can play just about anywhere. So to me, there's going to be very strong competition for Bellinger's services. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to two things. What's your offer look like? But also, like, can you provide a chance to win? Because for Bellinger, winning is extremely important to him. And if you don't have a chance of winning a championship, then I'm pretty sure you're not going to get Bellinger unless you give him an offer like he truly cannot refuse.
One last note before we sign off. Jeff Passan had a long string of Threads posts yesterday. By the way, shout out to Jeff for being on Threads. And I was playing Jeff Passan Detective last night. A lot of good insight on Bellinger's market and Schwarber and the big names. But one thing that my magnifying glass did pick out, he was talking about trade targets and options, and he called Brendan Donovan a where will they go? Like, he was categorizing people by unlikely to move, could move, etc. And he put Donovan in the category with the people who he basically was conceding they will get traded. Does that line up with what you're hearing? And how quickly could somebody move on Donovan? We've heard the Dodgers, Astros, Yankees all connected.
Yeah, this is a player that a lot of teams really, really, really like. And the names that you just mentioned have for sure checked in on him at the deadline and have checked in on him like as of this moment today. And do I expect him to get moved? I put it in the probably category. Would I say it's a lock? I mean, you can't really say it's a lock, but he's someone who I expect to have pretty strong interest. We saw Katie Woo even report the other day, I believe, that they expect to move at least 2 of their left-handed bats. So that would definitely make me think that this is a player to watch for sure. But the trade market is it's going to feature more than Brendan Donovan. And again, I come back to the guy, Freddie Peralta. As soon as Woodruff ended up taking that qualifying offer, the Brewers were adamant, or at least when talking to Will Salmon and Ken Rosenthal, specifically Matt Arnold and Mark Antanasio, that it was not the precursor to a Peralta trade. But they are known to be like a pretty, I don't want to say penny pinching franchise, but they don't necessarily spend big. They've called themselves the smallest market in baseball. And I'm still not ruling out a Peralta trade. I think it's something to watch. We'll see. But that's another one that I'm keeping an eye on heading into the winter meetings there in Orlando.
And again, we're just a week away from that. So please join us here again on Wednesday afternoon and Friday afternoon. I will be out Friday, but Robert and I will be back here Wednesday. Eric Cole and I will be on the Prospect Show tomorrow. Talking ball, and next week, all winter meetings all the time. For Robert Murray, I am Adam Weinrib. Take care, everybody, and we'll catch you on Wednesday.
We will. Thank you.